What is going on, guys? Today we have got another goalkeeper tier list, and I thought, you know what, we've done a month without it, and we've had some semi-decent cards and also some different cards, and we'll go through it as we go. So the new cards, as we've kind of established now, we've obviously got the World Cup icon check. We then have a World Cup hero Campos, obviously trying not to get them too mixed up, but also, as you can see, we have swapped out all of the gold cards for the World Cup players, because obviously we are in the World Cup season. I thought we definitely have to have a look and see, are these worth it? There is a few different chemistry changes with them. Obviously they are not with their standard club / league, so they don't count towards their league or obviously their club. So for instance, if you have Edison in there, but then you have a gold Walker and also say Ruben Diaz, they technically don't link. These all link together. So any of the Brazilian players will link, but also you do have a general type of World Cup players as well. So it's a really nice feature that they've added in this World Cup mode that we've had for the past 2-3 weeks now. But we have obviously got these, and I think these are the better options at the moment. They do go away, unfortunately, so obviously once the World Cup has finished, we will change these back out because they will disappear. These cards are not going to stay in your club, so personally I would use them whilst you can, really. They are pretty good with obviously having them in every single pack pretty much, and you should have probably quite an array of goalkeepers by now. I think the only one I don't actually have is Courtois, which just seems to escape me in every sense of the way, but we have got literally every other goalkeeper on this game in the World Cup variety. So we're going to start off. We've done a tier list twice now on goalkeepers, right at the start, again in the middle, and then now, especially after the post patch, it doesn't necessarily have a massive value on obviously the lengthy meta with goalkeepers, because it really just doesn't matter. But what we're finding is there is a lot of different players being used. We're seeing explosive, we're seeing controlled, we are still seeing the Haalands, who obviously are lengthy still. So it's an interesting now that we're not going against your typical big shooters, your Haalands, your Lukakus, your Dzekos, all of the players that don't necessarily have the greatest pace, but have incredible amounts of shooting. So obviously with this, it comes another challenge of goalkeepers. And again, I think this year I've actually been more okay with goalkeepers than any other year, just purely from natural saves. Yes, you still get your round the keepers, you get your passing across goal. That is going to be a standard, and I don't expect any goalkeeper to be able to save that because it's an open net. That just isn't what happens. But with some goalkeepers, I've noticed the reflection, the reaction saves, that's what I'm looking for, as well as double saves, even triple saves, have been a thing in this game. And let me know your opinions on them. I want to know who's your best goalkeeper. What is their best moment in your saves? How many saves have you made? 2, 3, 4? There is definitely a difference with obviously the hyper motion and being able to make saves. It makes the goalkeepers look a bit nicer as well. We're seeing some more fluid motions from them. Same with every aspect of the game. It does seem that little bit more real. Not necessarily as much phasing through the goalkeeper, even though yes, you will definitely find it if you look for it. So let's get into it. We've obviously got every single goalkeeper here that is worth mentioning, to be honest. I think anybody under this is probably not quite up there, and I'm interested to see your opinions on what these goalkeepers. Who is your number one goalkeeper? Let me know down below, and if you want to subscribe with more of these tier lists, we should have plenty for you. So we're going to start off with the first two heroes. Obviously, Campos has got an upgrade now. There's no point putting both in there as it's only a 1 increase, so really it's just worth mentioning once, really. He's coming in at 37.5k. Again, he's got a little bit of a stat increase, but personally for me, I don't see the worth in him. Unfortunately, he's what, 5'7". It does matter in this game. The chips on him, whenever I've seen him in net, obviously normally going against an MLS team, which personally I still think there is better goalkeepers, it just has that deal. In terms of chipping him, if he ever comes out, he's so much easier to chip than a Courtois, naturally from the height. Unfortunately for me, I think the upgrade has definitely put him out of that C, but most definitely he's not going higher than the B category. And Dudek as well. Again, not a bad keeper. We mainly use him in drafts, if anything. He's coming in at 36k as well. 6'2", so a little bit bigger. Again, not necessarily the greatest goalkeeper in the world in terms of this game, rating-wise and just specifically. I think for me, he will have to kind of sit in that C category. You very rarely see him. That is just not because he is an unused keeper that definitely has that ability. People know who's got ability or not, and most definitely Dudek, unfortunately, in this game doesn't. Then we move on to some of the informs. Again, we've got a couple now. We've got Chesney. Trapp's got his second inform. Donnarumma obviously has another inform. But there is a question, because we are going to be very, very close to Team of the Year. Who's it going to be? I personally think Donnarumma's probably still going to manage it. If we're looking at these golden forms to see the price, Donnarumma's coming in at 86,000 coins. Trapp's second inform is 31, and Chesney is coming in at 58. So again, another nice set of goalkeepers here that we find more and more. And again, we don't really find them mainly in the special promos, in the Path to Glories, the Road to the World Cups, all of them, because mainly I think EA got such a bad reaction once we had them. Before, we had them literally one goalkeeper every promo. If you was going to get a promo pack, you could pretty much guarantee that you were going to get your goalkeeper at least once. So unfortunately, they have taken the decision to really take them out, and we get them very, very rarely, unless we get them in a future star, or obviously if we get them in a FUT birthday. But in terms of ratings then, so for me, Chesney's definitely coming in at a solid rating. I personally would put him in that AS. I think in general, just a natural keeper, really good on the ball. I've seen a lot of Serie A squads, and I think for me, in terms of a Serie A squad, you're looking at Mignan, you're looking at Chesney. Obviously, people are thinking, okay, well, I can get a nice little dynamic with him. Doesn't really come in at a massive cost. He's going to be there. Trap, for me, again, not a bad one. I think if it was his 87, I'd be looking more in that A, just because I feel like he was starting to slip a little bit more. The speed of him just didn't seem to be quite right. But I think with this 88, he's had a little jump. He's now got an 88. I think definitely coming in that AS. And Donnarumma, everybody knows what Donnarumma is like for me. I think this keeper is absolutely wonderful. He normally makes so many good saves for me. If he does get a Team of the Year, then obviously that pretty much will be my goalkeeper until Team of the Season. And then obviously if we find somebody we like, that is going to be the change. But they are the inform. So then we're going to take a look. We've got Oblak obviously here, 89. He unfortunately doesn't play. Well, I don't think is it Slovakia or Slovenia? I always get this wrong, so I don't want to get it wrong before we actually state it. I want to say it's Slovenia. He is, if I can find it, we'll just click on his name. Slovenia. Perfect. I did know there was one or the other, because I know you've got Skriniar, who is one as well, but I cannot remember. I don't know the difference between the badge. Obviously, once we kind of get into there, we normally know. But Oblak, again, don't really see him too much. For such a high-rated goalkeeper, I very rarely see him, and we'll get on to who I see the most. But Oblak most definitely isn't there. He definitely still is a top-end keeper. You don't get 89 rated and become absolutely useless. There is still definitely some big use in him in this game mode. And then we go on to the World Cup players. So these are no specials. These are just bog standard. You get them at the 1 of 2 pick. You basically can get so many of these. We've had duplicate Alisson, Edison, we've had De Gea, we've had Neuer a couple of times, we've had Mendy a few times, Mignan. There is just so many that you can pick from, and the big thing for these is they don't cost you anything. So that is just the kind of big benefit that you've got. Personally, I've got a Kyle Walker. I do need some World Cup players to actually get him a link, because I definitely wanted to be playing with Kyle Walker at right back, but that is the kind of big benefit with these. You can just have World Cup players in, so it is a very nice chemistry boost that they've got with these. And obviously with all of the requirements for the swaps, you've got to use a team. So what not better than to use a French team with an actual proper French goalkeeper? Just makes life a little bit easier. So I think for me, straight off the bat, Alisson, Edison are absolute top tier. Edison's been my keeper now for a fair few many games, definitely a couple of hundred, and he has been absolutely stunning. If we then look at Courtois, normally everybody's favourite, he is just an absolute beast. Neuer, again, I think, another top-end keeper. De Gea, I'd say, is coming in at AS. Mignan, to be honest, Magnan's going to make the jump up. I feel like I've been seeing him a hell of a lot more. If they haven't had Chesney in a Serie A squad, they've definitely had that guy. Lloris, I'd say, is coming in with, obviously, De Gea. Navas, which is a funny one, because like I said with Oblak, with a high rated, you normally expect them to be at least semi-decent. With obviously a keeper, there's not really a telltale sign to see who's going to actually be top end. The only thing you can really relate to any sort of keepers is traits. And I think for me, Navas just doesn't make that cut, unfortunately. Same with Mendy now. Personally, I think he is dropping down towards the B in terms of what I'm seeing in the long run, and ter Stegen is going to stay in that A. Mendy for me was kind of my starting keeper in his Chelsea form, and honestly, he did really well to start with. Once then we start to see the teams progress into the Mbappes, to the Messis, to the Haalands, then to World Cup hero Voller. We're looking at then icons. He just slowly started to just become pretty much useless, and I don't know if speed has that massive factor there. 34 is very low if you look across the board in pretty much every keeper. It's the lowest by a considerable amount, and I think that for me is the perfect World Cup start. Let me know if you've got any difference there, but I think these World Cup cards are a great addition into the game. So then we have the icons. Obviously these are hard to pack, pretty much expensive to buy in terms of icons because they're hard to pack. So we're going to have a look through them all and see what is worth it. So if we can get the icons up now, we also, in fact, will go first straight away to our man Peter Cech. He's obviously got a middle version between his prime, and that is probably the next time we'll do a goalkeeper tier list, is in the primes. Probably team of the year might be just one card added unless we get an abundance of goalkeepers until then. Primes are going to be the next step, and Peter Cech has got that one little boost. He's got an 86, an 88, a 90, and then I believe he gets a 91 with his prime version. So with obviously Peter Cech, he's coming in at 185,000 coins, which has dropped his his base and his mid to 78, 119, and then the World Cup card coming in at 185. Obviously all in base, mid to World Cup icon. And honestly, Cech for me, his base was always absolute rubbish. I can't lie. We used him last year. We've had a little go this year with him. He just does not do it. The base is the worst. But then we go on to the mid. We actually had an SBC for this card, I think a year ago, or at least another year ago from then. And honestly, that card was way better. His base just absolutely tanked, whereas I really liked his mid. And I think most definitely comes into that higher variety of an A. Then we've had the World Cup. So if we just put them side by side, as you can see, not a massive difference really. +1 on diving, +1 on kicking, 2 on the reflex, well, 2 on speed in fact, and 2 on position. So nothing on handling, and obviously he has lost his hat, which is a little bit annoying. That was the best bit about him. You've got that iconic hat. It's very much like Yashin with his cap. That is the thing that you kind of know with Cech in the end. Obviously coming from a very bad tackle. If you've ever watched it, it is not very nice in the slightest, so obviously glad that he is okay from that, because that literally could have been a career ender. But a very solid keeper. He's coming in at 185. I think one of the more expensive keepers in terms of icons now. I don't actually know how much Yashin's coming at, but if we go to their versions, we then go over to icons, we are coming in at 410k for Edwin van der Sar. That's absolutely mad. Then we obviously have 307 for Yashin. So he's coming in at a pretty good price between mid Casillas and mid Schmeichel, in fact. So he's coming in at top 4 sort of expensive keepers in the game. Personally, we haven't actually used him fully. We've seen some gameplays, I've looked at a couple of reviews, and to be honest, I'm seeing some good feedback from him. The price for him, I think, is pretty much justified. We are getting a lot of these World Cup icons in packs, in terms of big packs, the 84x20. We've managed to get Petite and Laudrup, so obviously they are packable, seeing as though we've not had any icon before this. And I think for me, Cech, until his prime, I think he's going to stay in that AS. So then we move on to Casillas. 200,000 coins for his mid and 90k for his base. For me, this card is absolutely stunning. We used his mid for, I think, about 200 games. It might have been about 150, but I'm pretty sure we nearly got to that 200 mark. And honestly, what a keeper this is. Double save after double save. He was absolutely on it. I think for me, he was a very fan favorite in terms of icons. I personally, judging from some of these guys, are going to whack him up in that S category. And I think for me, in terms of keepers, the base and mids definitely have a difference. But sometimes you get that same sort of reaction looking at these between them two. Obviously, you've got a decent amount of upgrades from every position there. There is definitely more than a +2 in a lot of them. So I think for me, I'm going to have to put him in A just below him, just purely for the fact that that mid was absolutely crackers. And the base was okay. I just didn't get that same reaction. Definitely didn't play as many games, but I got that feel straight away from that mid. If then we look at Yashin, 89 and 91, we obviously get the iconic cap in the prime. And again, a very expensive keeper. His base is coming in at 170 and his mid at 307,000 coins. As you can see, again, we've got great speed on both of them. The positioning on his mid is way better. We then have only a 1 increase on the reflex, kicking not too much, handling has dropped 1, and his diving has gone up 2. For 307k, I think he's definitely S worthy, and I think Yashin's base will definitely come in at that AS, and maybe we see that downgrade once we get that iconic cap. You know, it gives him some goalkeeper powers, and hopefully will be an absolute cracker in this game. Schmeichel, honestly disappointed with this card. Honestly, every time I've used him, he's just not done well, and I don't know if it's just the card in general, the animations that he has, the size that he is, or the bulk. Honestly, I just really never get on with this card. I think base is probably coming in probably lower than check, and I think his mid is okay, but most definitely not a fan favorite keeper. I would much rather go for any of the ASs. I think I'm being very lenient with the A, but I'm going to keep some respect on him. If check's there, he's got to be there as well. And then we look at Mr. Van der Sar. Honestly, this is my favorite keeper in the game. Every year, I would love to get a Moments, a Prime. A Van der Sar is normally a top-end keeper. And as we can see from the price, 205 for the base, 410 for the mid, just tells you everything you need to know with him. Both versions are absolutely nuts. I don't know what it is, but every year we see him in teams, we see him in pro teams. Obviously, it does change, kind of goalkeepers come and go, but Van der Sar is normally one of them ones that you do see quite a lot, especially after we get out of the gold sort of scenario. Normally, we see a Courtois to start with, maybe an Edison or an Alisson, a Donnarumma, and then Van der Sar is normally the pick, and he is just genuinely a very good shot stopper. He's normally great at coming out for the goal. He's obviously got a good height at 6'6", not necessarily the tallest goalkeeper, but most definitely one of the tallest goalkeepers, and naturally he is just a great goalkeeper. And that is the list. So we go up from the C, we've got Schmeichel, Cech and Dudek. We see Campos in that B. Maybe we kind of knock off these kind of C category and just focus on these Bs as we do the next one. Obviously, like I say, primes will be involved, and hopefully some more cards in terms of informs, and maybe even an occasional special would be very nice to see. And obviously we'll keep updated as we go through. But again, the World Cup hero, or the World Cup players, heroes and icons have been a great addition to this game. I think most definitely we're looking at a solid tier list. Let me know down below who's your goalkeeper, who's your number one that you go for to give you that big game mentality. Let me know down below. Make sure you do like and subscribe if you did enjoy, and I'll see you all for the next one. Peace. Check out the videos in the middle of the screen.